Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This is a short introduction video for our latest project in the UK, this time coming from Edinburgh. So the first time we've been here in 10 years, actually. We've been very keen to get back into this market for some time, but it's been just a difficulty actually with developers, with seeing who's building anything basically to get our hands on things. So today is going to be just a basic run through of the new project, the basics of Edinburgh as a city and why we like that, and how we can help you basically maybe add to your portfolio of investments. So I'm Jeremy, and today I'm joined by Shelley from our South African office, and we're going to have a look at the new scheme.
Hello everyone, really excited to share some information with you about this development today. It's situated in Edinburgh, which is the capital of Scotland. Has a fantastic population of 532,000, which has increased by 19% since 2001. Fantastic economy of 29.4 billion, which we'll touch on in a bit. Exceptionally fast growth and high levels of disposable income, which is exactly what you're wanting to see when you're purchasing a property. We can get these let out really well with affordability. And there's also, obviously, when we're talking about these properties, we talk about the education as well as the regeneration that's happening in the area, just to provide some confidence around it.
So now we're going to look at Edinburgh in comparison to other cities as well. It's important to look at that just in terms of the speed of growth. Population growth is obviously really important because we need to have renters and people to buy the properties, and 19% growth since 2001 is outperforming other cities around the UK. But
it's actually three times higher than the average.
Yeah, exactly, and that's this is why there's so much kind of energy behind Edinburgh at the moment, which is generally expected to be an outperformer in the UK over the next 5 years. So now is particularly the time for Scotland. But now we have all these workers and renters there. We need to know that they've got a wider range and decent level of job there. It's all very well having people, but you need the economy to back it up, and particularly Edinburgh is super powerful here. So behind London, it's the second biggest financial services market in the UK. It's the second biggest software and digital technology. And all these industries are really ones which are very safe for the next 20 years. Food and drink is a bit kind of left field there, but can't underestimate Scotch whisky is a massive exporter, 4.5 billion a year. That's a huge economy, and one which is only ever growing as that's picked up around the world. Creative and arts, it's got a huge cultural and touristic pull there. We've got the Edinburgh Fringe and the festival that goes on, but just as a very beautiful and very well loved city, that's very useful for us. And then as renewable energy, it's actually energy overall, because of course we've got a lot of fossil fuels up in Scotland with gas fields and so forth. But yeah, renewable energy, this is where a huge proportion of the UK's new companies within that sector are being based. So Edinburgh being the capital, a lot of their head offices are here. So really this is it represents safety effectively over the long term. So exactly what we want to see.
So the economy has grown by 157% since 2000. Basically, like we've said, is 29.4 billion gross domestic products. And that's due to increase by 87% by 2035, reaching about 55 billion. And obviously, that's what we're wanting to see as far, as a healthy economy, that it's growing, that we're getting more employees, more students in place in order for it to continue to grow.
And really putting itself on a high level across Europe and across the world in terms of a capital city. It's being very much attractive to foreign investment as well. So employment and income, effectively here what we're seeing is the diverging graph here of unemployment, which was peaking around about 2008, 2009 at 7.63, going down now to 2.6%, which is one of the lowest in Europe. That for a capital city, that's extraordinarily low. And conversely, since 2000, the average household income growth, the disposable income's increased by 115% since 2000. So you can see here the average excess capital that each family has versus the unemployment rate, which is a perfect environment then for a healthy mobile economy, a workforce which has cash and therefore can afford for rents to keep rising and for property prices to keep going that way. So that economy and all those different jobs is really supporting the market.
So yes, education is obviously really important. It's home to 6 universities with more than 60,000 full-time students. We've got 3 of the largest universities, which include one of which is really well known, is the Russell Group. It's called the University of Edinburgh. It's ranked 29th globally. And basically, we've got Harriet Watts University and Edinburgh University as well. And obviously we have a really good amount of students in the area. A lot of them are from are international students as well. So they'll be looking for a place to live. And the universities are located really close to the development that we have on offer, the Carrick as well. So yeah, I think
the international students often, particularly like with Harriet Watt being, engineering focused, and at University of Edinburgh being very, a well-known one around the world, you do get very good quality of potential tenants from the international students in particular who come over, who tend to look after the apartments well and tend to pay sometimes their whole year's rent up front. So quite often it'd be someone we quite like to get involved with.
Yeah, I mean, all these universities also have a lot of staff, obviously, that need places to live as well.
And the retention of students is something which is overlooked. It used to be back in 2000, most cities outside of London, when their students would leave university, they'd go down to London to basically get their jobs. But, with, say from Manchester, for example, as well, and particularly Edinburgh outside of that, they're cities which very much retain their students because there's good jobs for them to stay in when they're finished. But transportation then, it's important for people to be able to get around. Edinburgh is a city which is well connected by local tram, which will run all the way from east to west, going up even to the airport there. There's extensions going on at the moment, which is always something we're looking forward to help increase certain, demographics of certain areas in terms of, in 10 years' time, there'll be a richer type of tenant there. But also it's very well connected with air, short journey, an hour 25 minutes to London, hours 50 to Paris. And so, all the major European capitals you can quickly get by air. It's well serviced. And rail, of course, either you can take the sleeper to London if you want to do it in luxury, or it can be much quicker if you want to take a fast train. And it's, it's well connected to every UK major city.
All right, so we've got regeneration. Obviously, these are kind of things we're wanting to have a look at when we add a development to our portfolio. What's currently happening, what kind of regeneration is happening to uplift the city. We've got 15 major regeneration projects identified in the city plan, and the 3 most popular at the moment would be the Haymarket Gap, the Meadowbank neighborhood and sports centre, as well as Fountain Bridge, and all of these are obviously creates a lot of jobs and things like that in the area as well. And yeah, I think
essentially that's providing safety for the future. When you talk about those jobs,
for sure,
it's propping up that market we're talking about. And of course, this is mainly just highlighting the 15 major ones which are backed by the local municipality. There's countless other private developers and just regeneration projects or new build schemes. It's quite slow for the municipality to give permission to give new builds. That's why we've struggled to get into the market for the last 10 years. But that's actually changing and increasing now. So actually the opportunities are going to be coming as developers realise it's a market which is very much in demand. So all of this works as long as the supply and demand balance is in our favour. And exactly, this is the backbone of any good property investment, is essentially not having enough homes for the amount of people who want them. So what we see here is something we've put together in terms of looking at the maximum amount that's been built in the last 10 years. We've given that an average, and we've factored that against the needed property in market. So even at the top level of what they've achieved in the last 10 years, if they reach that, then we're still looking at a fairly severe undersupply of properties up to, we put it here for 2031. So even just under 10 years, if they manage to hit this market, which is looking unlikely, they're still going to be close to 30,000 homes in deficit. So bad for your local average person who's trying to rent there and be competitive, because the rents therefore are going to keep getting pushed up, and equally off the back of that, house price is going to get pushed up. So a healthy market for us investors, a bit more of a struggle if you're looking for cheap rents in market.
Yeah, so the housing market, rents in Edinburgh increased by 14.7% between October 2021 and October 2022. So obviously in a year, the house prices are forecast to increase by a further 17.6% over the next 5 years. And obviously this is really important because you're wanting to see, the property that you purchase, that there is potential for growth, and that it's going in the right direction. So those supply and demand imbalances are really, really important when it comes to that.
And in the short term here, we've seen this massive spike of rental increases. That's continuing now. As we know, we're in a inflationary environment, and so some of the interest rates are up. So actually, we have more people renting and less buying. So what we're looking at in terms of a 10-year hold for a property is it's a very good time for rents and rising at the moment. And on the back of that, we always see good capital growth. So we look here at the 5-year forecast at 17.6%. Probably after the back end of this year is when we're going to start to see surges in growth coming again. So here's the property overall. So we've got 27 new build apartments. This is a total new build with 6 parking spaces included. This is with a developer called Mandale, who we've worked with 9 times now, and we see here the breakdown of prices from 237 to 256 for 1 beds, 295 to 378 for 2 beds. And then there's a couple of 3 beds as well, which potentially might be for investors, might be for people who are buying to live in themselves. There's quite a lack of 3 beds being delivered into market, so there's certainly in demand. So a range of sizes, which basically correlates to the difference in prices between them. And just in terms of the property itself, in terms of the structure, if we're looking compared to, say, the UK, some people are more familiar with that. They're called factoring charges as opposed to service charges in Scotland, which is £2 a square foot per annum, which is pretty cheap for Edinburgh. It's not a leasehold like you might find for flats in the UK, because in Scotland they don't have that. They have freehold, but you have a share of ownership of the building, basically, and then a communal obligation for the service charges, which you'll pay. But you do have your rights. You have freehold on the property, which a lot of people will prefer. And then the payment structure. It's being delivered back end of 2024, Q3, Q4 2024. And so it's only 20% down now, and then 80% on completion. And for those people who want to be getting mortgages, currently we're advising, 65% is what to look at. It could well be that there are different banks who might be offering a bit more at a time, but to be pragmatic, to be sensible, 65% is a very safe to consider.
And also this property will complete in Q3 2024. So that also gives you just some time to put a deposit down now, apply for the mortgage, and then pay the rest once complete.
Absolutely. So just a couple of interiors shots here. What we like to see here, good, clean, new build, units in terms of not wasting any space, floor to ceiling windows. And you can tell by the finishing and so forth, this is very much the kind of tenant we're after. So that kind of middle management tenant who quite happy to pay a little bit more for a higher end property in a good location, which is easily accessible to the city centre. And so
quite a few of these apartments have Juliet balconies as well. Is that right, Jeremy?
There are, and then at the top floor on the penthouse, then there are 3 or 4 units which have large outside spaces as well. So you can well imagine this might be someone who's buying to live in it themselves. We're just a 10-minute ride from the city centre. And we can see here the general finishing and sizing of the apartments, and then lastly the bathroom. This visual here, this is on the right hand side, that is a CGI of how the new build will look next to Gorgie Road. If you're from Edinburgh, you'll certainly be familiar with that road, and that is about a 10-minute drive back into the city centre. So we can see at the top middle there is Edinburgh Castle. On the left hand side is Murrayfield Stadium, where Scotland play their rugby. And then on the right, Edinburgh Napier University, which is a short walk away. But whether by car or tram or bus, it's a quick, easy ride back in the centre. It's about 1.2 miles. We've specifically gone for this location, actually, because of the value that provides. Those property prices you saw there, we're hovering around the kind of high 3s to low 400s per square foot. Going back into the city centre, we're going up to £700 a square foot. So for value, for potential, for growth. It's exactly the kind of property we've been looking for the last few years, actually.
Yeah, so Mandel Homes is one of the developers that we work very closely with, and we've done quite a few projects with them, all deliver to really, high standard and high specs, and then completes on time as well. So I think this is the 7th, or was it the 12th? I actually can't remember, Jeremy, which one?
We're on the 9th. The one on the right-hand side there, Arc Avenue in Newcastle. I think that was the last to complete, and we've got a couple more which are in development now. Arc Avenue actually won Best Redevelopment of the Year at the Property Awards. So they are recently been looked after for their work they've been doing. So we're very happy to keep the relationship going with them. So lettings and management. Yes. Shelley, do you want to do that?
Yeah, so basically, obviously, you're wanting to have a hands-free investment where it's not something that you have to worry too much about. And we have Complete who manage the property for you on your behalf, help you find a tenant, obviously do all the background checks for you as well. If you're looking to get a furniture pack to furnish the property, then we're happy to help you with that as well, just sending you a brochure of what's currently available. But we'll let you know, or Complete will let you know, if it's worth furnishing the apartments or not, if we can find tenants unfurnished. But it's a fantastic offering as far as a full end-to-end solution, understanding that you can have this managed on your behalf as well if you live far away.
And of course, that goes with our, the whole service that we have, as you'll know, if you've been in touch with us before. Everything in the entire property cycle is umbrellaed and managed by us. So obviously on the advice side to start with, from your consultants based all over the world, but we do have obviously the lawyers who can transact it. We've got the lettings team to look after the apartment there for however long you want to hold it. We can introduce you to tax advisors and so forth. And then as and when you want to sell it, whether that's going to be in 7, 10, 15, 20 years time, we can help you sell it as well. So our relationship stays with you for the entire time that you will be tied to the property, and we will help kind of build your portfolio over time.
Yes, I guess if you have, we're obviously really excited about this with this development. We know it's going to sell really quickly. Like Jeremy said earlier, it's the first time in 10 years that we've had something in Edinburgh, and we know it's going to sell really quickly. And look forward to having some meetings with you to answer any kind of questions that you may have around it, to discuss floor plans and unit selection, and take you through the cash flows. Obviously, it's an investment property, and you're wanting to see the numbers and how it all works. And we're more than happy to arrange one-on-one meetings to take you through that information in more detail. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeremy. Thank you for your wealth of knowledge and for taking us through the development in depth. Look forward to doing it again.
Appreciate people getting in contact. Thanks a lot.